It was just after 9 when the truck showed up, an old, dust-caked silver Dodge Ram with a crooked license plate barely hanging on. The vehicle rolled up slow, tires crunching over the dry gravel outside the fence line of a quiet 12-acre stretch of land just outside Winslow, Arizona. There were 3 men inside. They didn't look like delivery guys, and they sure weren't locals. Micah Vance was already up feeding his horses near the east fence, wearing a worn flannel shirt, jeans, and boots caked with clay. He spotted the truck before he heard it. Years of training behind enemy lines had rewired his instincts. Watch the roads, always. Especially the quiet ones. The men got out. Each wore navy blue polos with white stitched patches over the left chest. Neighborhood Compliance Authority. Not a real agency. Not one recognized by any government entity. But bold enough to fool someone unfamiliar with such tactics. One held a clipboard. Another had a utility belt with nothing but a walkie-talkie and a flashlight clipped on. The third, taller and darker-skinned, wore mirrored sunglasses and stood with his arms crossed like he'd been cast to play the serious one. They walked up like they owned the place. The clipboard guy called out in a practiced, stiff voice, "Mr. Vance, we're with the HOA enforcement unit. Need to speak with you about several property violations." Micah didn't answer. He stayed crouched, tying a hay bale down with quiet precision, one knee braced on the wood. Beside him, his dog Axel, a tan German Shepherd mix, watched the strangers with his tail still and eyes focused. It wasn't rudeness. It was calculated silence. The kind that says, "I heard you. I just don't respect the tone." The clipboard guy cleared his throat. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step forward. You've got unauthorized fencing on the south perimeter, and your outbuildings weren't approved by the neighborhood association." Micah finally stood and replied, voice calm and low, the kind that made men listen even when they didn't want to. "There's no HOA out here." The man blinked, taken aback. "I think you might be mistaken, sir. This land falls under the jurisdiction of the Mesquite Valley Residential Committee. Section C of the Neighborhood Code Enforcement Act applies to all. My deed says unincorporated. No HOA. No enforcement committee. No jurisdiction." Micah started walking toward the gatoon, threatening but deliberate. A man who'd seen enough combat to know exactly how fast to move when sizing someone up. Sunglasses stiffened. One hand hovered near his belt. But it was a bluff. All of it was. These weren't professionals. "You got a badge number? County ID? Something that ties you to any real agency?" Micah asked. The one in sunglasses replied, voice deep but unsteady, "We have a legal right to inspect non-compliant structures under community guidelines." "This isn't personal." Micah smirked, not kindly. "You don't even know which code you're quoting." The clipboard guy stared at his papers like he might find the answer written in the margins. From across the neighboring fence, a voice chimed in, "Mrs. Henderson, 83 years old and sharper than a cactus needle." She had her phone out, already recording. "You all right over there, Micah?" He gave a nod. "Just some visitors who forgot to make an appointment." That changed the tone real fast. Sunglasses man shifted back a step. They didn't want an audience. Micah didn't have to raise his voice. He didn't have to yell. He just said, "You might want to think real hard about where you're standing and who you're trying to fool. This isn't a city block. We don't take kindly to uninvited performances." There was a beat of silence. Wind picked up slightly, the only sound the chain on the gate clinking in the breeze. Finally, Sunglasses said, "We'll file a non-compliance report. This isn't over." Micah leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped even lower. "It is if you walk away. That'd be the smart move." One of them, barely older than a kid, looked like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. His eyes flicked down. They weren't used to being questioned. But something about Micah's posture made them hesitate. This was not a man you intimidated with fake rules. Micah had moved here 5 years ago. Left the Navy after 22 years and 2 failed marriages. His right knee still locked up when it got cold. He bought this land from an old professor who'd wanted to move closer to his grandkids. Paid cash. Built everything by hand. Not flashy. Just his ranch house, a greenhouse, 2 horses, and a few goats. The kind of place you came to when you didn't want to be bothered. And that was the point. The clipboard guy flipped a page like he was about to make a dramatic reveal. But the paper had no letterhead, no legal citations. Just phrases made to sound official. Micah said, "You know, a crew like yours tried something similar near Tuba City. Said they were from tribal infrastructure. Tried to find folks for their solar panels. One of the homeowners was a retired cop. Called in a few favors. Turns out those guys had outstanding warrants in 3 counties. That got a flicker from the young one. What happened to them? He asked. They were arrested, Micah said flatly. Clipboard looked nervous now. You're out of compliance, he snapped. You'll face fines. Maybe property seizure. Micah raised an eyebrow. Really? Who's your supervisor? Sunglasses man didn't answer. Neither did Clipboard. No phone number. No badge. No agency. You didn't do your homework, Micah said. You thought this would be easy. Put on a polo, walk around handing out fake threats. The kid shifted his weight again. Sunglasses man squared up. We don't have to answer your questions. No, Micah replied, but the sheriff might have a few for you. He pulled out his phone and showed Themet had been dialing for a while. Clipboard panicked. Wait, let's talk. No need to escalate. You're not from around here, are you? Micah asked. None of them answered. That lady recording you? He pointed toward Mrs. Henderson. She's lived here since '78. And the guy across the ridge? Retired Marine sniper. You picked the wrong ranch. Clipboard guy's fingers twitched. Sunglasses looked like he wanted to run. The kid looked like he might cry. Micah didn't gloat, but he watched them. Calculated. Always observing. He said, You got fleet registration on that truck? No answer. He moved closer to the gate. Let me guess, rented it under a fake name? No city registration? Want me to run the plate? The young one broke. We shouldn't be here, he whispered. Micah caught it. Trey, is it? You got a badge number, Trey? The kid opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Clipboard tried to recover. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Micah's voice turned sharp. You're impersonating a regulatory officer. That's a felony. That landed hard. Sunglasses guy took a step back. Clipboard lowered his folder. Trey looked ready to vomit. Micah asked again. Want to tell me what this really is? Or should I let the sheriff pull it out of you? Trey stammered. We were just warning people. Checking regs. You ever seen a real cease and desist? No. You ever held an actual code enforcement order? No. Then why are you here? Sunglasses interrupted. Don't talk to him. He doesn't speak for us. Micah smiled grimly. You've already lost control. You just haven't realized it yet. Clipboard tried to walk back to the truck. Micah's dog barked once, sharp, fast, controlled. It made the man freeze. Micah's tone changed. Back away from the truck. Clipboard stopped. Show me your ID, Micah demanded. Any of you. Just one document with your name and a city seal. Nothing. Then the distant wail of a siren. Micah didn't look. He knew who was coming. You called them. Trey whispered. 15 minutes ago, Micah said. Said I had 3 trespassers impersonating officials. A sheriff's cruiser kicked up dust as it approached. Deputy Colton Hale stepped out, stocky, sharp-eyed, all business. Mr. Vance, he said with a nod. You all right? Appreciate you coming. These 3 claim they're from an HOA. Tried to enter my land. Wouldn't show ID. Names? They haven't offered any. That one goes by Trey. Let's see some identification, Hale said. Clipboard tried to smile. We were just conducting standard residential outreach. Great, Hale said. Show me documentation that authorizes it. Nothing. Another cruiser pulled up. Deputy Sarah Contreras got out, one hand near her holster. Trey caved. I didn't know, he said. I thought it was just easy money. Dane, he motioned to Sunglasses. He said no one would ask questions. Clipboard was cuffed. Dane was taken next. Contreras returned. Truck stolen. Rented from a yard in Holbrook. Reported missing. Hale looked at Micah. You did good, sir. These guys have hit other places. Holbrook, Joseph City. They picked the wrong property, Micah said. As they were led away, Trey looked back at him. I didn't know it would go this far. Micah stepped closer. That's the problem. You never do until it's too late. Later, Hale said something that stopped Micah cold. This isn't random. They've been hitting veterans, people living alone, off-grid types. We think they're casing soft targets. That settled hard in Micah's chest. They weren't just here to scam, Hale said. They might have come back when no one was home. Micah stood quiet for a long time. You going public with this? We're preparing a statement. You'd better, Micah said. Next time might be someone who can't stand up. He didn't want recognition. But that night, he sent an email to the local listserv, beware of men impersonating HOA officials. They are not legitimate. Ask questions. Demand proof. Record everything. Within hours, the warning spread. Within days, the arrests made local news. Sheriff Hale gave a press conference. More victims came forward. Operation Paper Shield had begun. And Micah? He went back to feeding his horses. Because out here, the land teaches you one thing above all else. When it matters most, you stand your ground. And you don't need a badge for that.